Should Elon Musk be allowed to comment on UK affairs? Like we could stop him, really. Or should he keep out of British politics? We're joined now by former UKIP and independent MEP Stephen Woolfe, who says a successful businessman, Elon Musk, is a passionate contributor to political debate in this country. And we're also joined by political journalist and broadcaster Theo Usherwood, who says Elon Musk should stay out of British politics and his comments risk damaging the UK's relationship with the USA. Let's come to you first of all, Stephen. People would see that and think, what are you talking about? Stop getting involved. Why is it fair that he should take a swipe at our government and politics?
Well, look, billionaires and millionaires have been part of British politics. Money and power have linked together from history, from the Bardis, who supported banking of our kings in wars, to even having Keir Starmer having a billionaire in Mr Fink from BlackRock, one of those powerful companies in the world supporting him. So that's been part of our history. We may not like it. It's acceptable. What's interesting, though, and what's scaring everybody, is that those millionaires and billionaires have been supporting Labour and the Conservative Party. And here we have someone who wants to fund the upstart party of reform. That's why it's worrying it, and that's why I think it's interesting. Why not bring a balance of a new player with new money to make politics much more disruptive? So you're OK with his comments because he's in support of an area of politics that you like? Not necessarily. I'm in support of his comments because, A, I believe in freedom of speech. I think it's important that people are allowed to say what they like. His choice of who he supports is interesting for me. I like some of what Reform does. I'm not a member, make sure that's very clear. But I do like the idea that a new party has somebody else able to challenge the views and policies of the establishment. That's why I think it's important. What's wrong with that?
Look, let's start with the money. If we're talking about the money, Elon Musk is going to donate something in the region, we're told, of up to £78 million. Labour in 2022, for the latest figures available, got £13 million in private donations. I'm not given to football analogies, but this is the equivalent of Real Madrid turning up to play a Sunday League game. It will completely distort the political landscape. It will completely distort the political landscape in terms of the amount of money that's involved in British politics. We're talking about every £6 that Reform spends, Labour is only able to spend £1.
But Reform is a small party. They don't have the backing or history that Labour and the Conservatives. Why not allow someone to bring them up to a level playing field?
But it's not a level playing field, Stephen. We're not talking... That amount of money does not make it a level playing field. It completely distorts politics. And, you know, Elon Musk has many interests, but is he interested in the nuts and bolts of what matters to your viewers here? Is he interested really in the NHS and reform of the NHS? Is he interested in working people or ordinary people just having more money in their back pockets? The level of inflation,
I think it's very clear that he supports working people. The very fact that he supports Trump's policies to actually control immigration, which is 71% of the people in this country think we've got too much immigration in this country, and I think that's very important. He supports the farmers, who we know are going to be devastated by an inheritance tax. And he's very clear that he wants to support different ideas that the establishment and political parties like Labour and the Conservatives have. But that's talking about money and support. That is a arguably separate question from using his vast platform that he owns, some 200 million followers, to directly attack the government and call for the release of Tommy Robinson, far-right activist. That will have sway, won't it, that others won't have?
Yes, and if you look at some of the tweets that Sean just went through there, and you look at his track record, he is trying to destabilise this government. And Keir Starmer, you would agree, should he be looking for a reset with Europe, or should he actually be able to sit down in a room with Donald Trump and strike some sort of trade deal? I know what you'd say, Stephen. You'd want Keir Starmer to go over to the United States once he's done his inauguration and strike a trade deal with Donald Trump. How on earth is he supposed to do that when somebody who is such a key part of Donald Trump's administration is trying to destabilise the government?
No one's going to tell, really, Donald Trump what to do. He will have lots of advisers and he's got a much better team this time. But anyone who thinks that Donald Trump will not have to have the thick skin of dealing with people who've insulted him, like Keir Starmer and David Lammy, and members of the Labour cabinet over years, That's not an argument to say that we won't be able to do deals with them, hence the reason they put Mandelson in place. The key point in this is that we've had people like Beaverbrook and those who've run huge newspapers over our histories have controlled either the left or the right of arguments, influencing what we see. X is just another symbol of that and where we are in the future.
But why is he particularly going after Britain? You know, he has attacked Democrats as well on his platform in the US, but he doesn't seem to be targeting any other countries. What's his beef with Britain? Well,
it's not just Britain. Obviously, we've heard what he said about supporting the AfD in Germany. He's actually commented that he likes what Maloney's done in Italy, and, of course, he supports what's happening in France.
But not recently.
But hang on, just on that, you kind of throw that away, but the AfD have got far-right connections, and they're seen as a far-right party. Well, one of the recent attacker in Germany was linked to the AfD, was a big supporter of the AfD. Does this not concern you?
I think we have to be careful about the investigation on that at the moment.
I'm not talking about the investigation, I'm talking about the AfD. Does it not concern you that you're really saying that it's OK that the common denominator of Elon Musk, he's backing Tommy Robinson, a far-right activist. You talk about Maloney, also accused of far-right activism, and the AfD. Does that not concern you at all?
Well, first of all, I have a concern about the definition of what far-right is. I've never actually heard anyone give me a precise definition. If it's about those who just oppose mass immigration, then you will have that in terms of Maloney and other people across the world.
Would anti-Muslim hatred come under because that's what the AfD have clearly said. That
I think that would certainly be one of those.
And so does Tommy Robinson. As a Muslim, I find that offensive, and a lot of Muslims will do too.
And absolutely too. But if you look
is that far right?
Well, I would think that would probably from there, but I've never seen that in terms of a definition. What I'm saying, though, is when it comes to Elon Musk, he is entitled as a free individual to speak in his own views, support parties and views. It's up to us, whether we're commentators and individuals, to challenge those views logically and carefully. And I think that's why we're here on the debate today.
David Lammy, Foreign Secretary, Keir Starmer have all said extreme things about Donald Trump.
Unwise, and it's very difficult to defend those. And Labour also sent over activists to work as volunteers during the presidential election. And it was an incredibly stupid thing to do because, of course, it provides Stephen and others with a perfectly legitimate argument. I can't argue against that. They should have read the room and they should not have done it. And David Lammy, and I think there are others within the senior Labour positions in opposition who never really ever twigged that they were going to have to make the leap up into being in government. And that is something that they didn't get to grips with in opposition. They should have been much more guarded and they should have recognised that there was a very good chance they were going to be in government, and they should have also recognised there was a very good chance they were going to be in government and that on the other side of the Atlantic, Donald Trump was going to be in the White House, and they should have been much more guarded in the way that they conducted themselves.
What about this argument? We hear this argument constantly about free speech, and in free speech, obviously, we all believe in free speech, but is there a line? I mean, clearly what's happening with X, I mean, X now, you know, lots of people are leaving X because of some of the hatred and some of the rhetoric and the algorithm that operates on there. Is there a line? And in the case of Elon Musk, is it that, yes, he's willing and has a right to his views, or is he crossed a line that we should be concerned?
We need a regulator. We're here on GMP, there's a regulator. We have to moderate and we have to work within certain parameters. For the newspapers you've got there's a regulator. They have to work within certain parameters. Why is there not a regulator for
But there is legislation that all these
No, I'm talking about a specific regulator. Yes, there's the confines of the law, and then there's a regulator in the form of Ofcom. There is no regulator for these online companies, and they need to be able to operate within the parameters of what we set out, what the government set out, and in terms of consultation, and that will include, of course, speaking to the likes of Elon Musk and the executives at Facebook and TikTok. But they need to come up with some boundaries so that actually the debate is fair and measured.
Some elements now, social media, it does come under Ofcom, but I think they are monitoring it to a certain extent. But
nothing like what your executives here have to
it's much more
what they have to go
through.
through.
It's global, and then you'd have to have a global regulator.
Yeah.
But is this a concern because we now have the modern-day Beaverbrook actually taking control and giving an opportunity to hundreds of millions of people, and maybe it's not a view that we necessarily agree with? If that's the case, then I think that's a little bit unfair. But what I do think is exciting about it is we should grasp it and see how interesting British politics might become if he does get involved.
You going to be joining Reform soon? Are you...
I'm not sure that I will be a part of their team. I'm not sure. They've never reached out to me.
But if they were to?
I've not done the same. I think at the moment I've enjoyed my time, like Theo, with our young children taking that forward and enjoying the time with them.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much,
Theo,
both of you.
great to see you again, Theo, as well. 'Cause I missed you on the radio. You've been
Yes.
fantastic on LBC over the years, so
Thank
thanks.
you.
Good to see you again.